Hey guys, it's Lisa and welcome to my channel. The first item we're going to make over today is this little piece of furniture. And as you can see, it sits right on the ground, which I don't like. I'm going to be adding some legs to that, and I don't like that piece on top there, so I'm going to remove that. See, it just sits on the ground and makes it look like a cabinet instead. And then I don't like this little piece of wood that's on the back, so I've taken that off, and I'm going to make that over into another item. And then this little piece had a few little imperfections. It had a crack right there on the door that I'm fixing with some air dry clay just by pressing that into the crack, and then I'll let that dry, and it dries pretty quickly, and then I can sand it and paint it. And then I'm also going to fill in the screw holes on that top piece where it's screwed into the back of the top. And I'm just going to fix that also with some air dry clay. Now, a lot of you will know what this piece of furniture is. It's actually called a bedside commode, and it's just like it sounds. They would open this cabinet, and there's no shelf in there. And so they would put their little, what they called a chamber pot, and that's just where they would go to the bathroom if they had to go in the middle of the night, and then put the lid on it and shut it up in that cabinet. And I know that sounds very gross, but the inside of this is very clean, and it doesn't have any unpleasant odor. So, and it was already painted this color of white, but it's not the color of white that I'm putting on this. I'm putting the color buttercream, which is a Dixie Belle color, and I'm just going to go ahead and go over the inside of this with a coat of this. And that's just kind of extra protection, but like I said, there was no odor or anything in here, so I guess whoever had this may have liked the oak on the outside, but maybe they felt better painting the inside. So this is just giving it another coat. And this particular piece is going to go in my home. So I'm giving this the color buttercream all over, except for the legs. And I've added some legs to this. I had some longer legs, and I had my husband had him cut them down. And then we've added them to the bottom. Now, I'm not going to paint them this color because I'm going to be painting them in the color Caviar, which is just a dull black. So I have to give this 2 coats, and then I also painted the drawers and down the sides of the drawers, or the drawer that was only one drawer. And I took the handles off this because someone had put an old, ugly, dated cabinet door handles on it, or pulls, and I didn't like those at all, so I took those off. And I found a couple of old handles that I had, or drawer pulls that I had, that I'm going to use on it instead. Now, this page here that you see laying there is from an old music book, and I wanted to use it on the drawer, but it didn't quite cover the inside. I just love that old look of that. So I'm just taking some old book pages and just kind of piecing them around the outer edge so that when I glue that piece down, you won't see any of the drawer. But I like the way the book pages look also. I just wanted to have that page. I've been saving it for a project like this, so I'm just decoupaging that inside this drawer. I like to put a little something in the drawers. I feel like it just kind of gives a little added touch. But I really like this paper because there's a lot of old staining that I actually like. So once I got this piece painted and let it dry well, I did take it outside, and I used my orbital sander and just gave it a heavy distressing because I wanted this piece. Here I am pulling it back where I got some wrinkles in it, so I'm just pulling it back and resituating it. But like I said, I take it outside later and give it a heavy sanding because, like I said, I want this to be very primitive. My home has a lot of primitive pieces in it, and So I felt like it really needed to have some heavy distressing. And then I'm just putting this little stencil on here, and I wanted to kind of keep it simple, so I just put that on there. And as you can see here, I'm painting these legs black, and that kind of, the reason I did that is just to kind of bring the color from the stencil down. And then I'm going to be putting a lamp on it that's also black. So it just kind of, I feel like it makes it go together well. But I think as much as this paint transformed this piece, and here I'm putting some scripture on the drawers. If you've seen me do furniture before, you know that I like to put a scripture stamp on the side of the drawer, and that's why I like to paint the side of the drawer so that will show up. But I'm putting on, even though I'm keeping this one, I usually like to do that just to give them a little added surprise when they buy a piece of furniture. But I'm keeping this one, but I just did it anyway. But like I was saying, what transformed this the most, I think, was putting those legs on it. It just raising that up and getting it off the ground, I feel like made a really big difference in this piece, and I love how it turned out. I thought about using an antique wax and decided I like that the way it was without it. And here I'm using this little lamp, and it's just a little wooden lamp, nothing special. And I'm giving it that same color of black, the caviar, and I give this a couple of coats and let it dry well. And then I'll go back through with a piece of fine sandpaper and do a little distressing on it, because when I paint an item like this black, especially if there's wood underneath it, and I distress it, I like to use a brown wax over it because it really gives it a good primitive look. So I'll put a couple of coats on here and let it dry well, and then do some light sanding, and then go over it with the brown wax, and then that will also kind of help seal that. I didn't mention with that piece of furniture, I did spray a clear coat on it, because chalk paint always has to be sealed. You could go over it with a clear wax, or any kind of sealer will work, but it was just easier for me to take it outside and spray it. But this lamp is just going to be very simple. I'm just going to paint it black, and like I said, lightly distress it and seal it, and then the lampshade that came with it was already in pretty good shape. So all I'm going to do to that lampshade is put a stencil on it, and I'm going to put that same stencil that I put on the front of that of the bedside commode, because like I said, I'm going to be displaying them together, and I think they'll look good together. So here's this lampshade. Now I'm just going to put this stencil on here, and I have to resituate it because when a lampshade is smaller on top than it is on the bottom, which most of them are, it's hard to get your placement right. So what I decided to do was cover up those words on the bottom, because I felt like that would really accentuate the fact that it isn't setting just right. So I got it just as straight as I could given the shape of it, but like I said, I taped off those words on the bottom and just chose to leave that off the stencil. But this cloth on this, even though it's hard to stencil because you don't have, it's not real good and sturdy, you kind of have to hold your hand behind it, but it's a little harder to stencil. But with this cloth, it's very forgiving with this stencil brush, and you don't get the bleed through and the feathering that you sometimes do on slicker objects. But and I'm just, instead of tapping it on there, I'm able to kind of rub it instead, and it just goes a lot quicker. And I think it's a real pretty, it makes it a real sharp image, I think. So there is my lamp finish. Like I said, it's very simple, but I really like how it turned out. And then for the third item, I'm just going to use that back that I unscrewed from the top of this piece, and I'm painting it that same buttercream color. And I just give it 2 coats of this and heavily distress it also. And I'll also make sure that I paint on all of the sides around it, because I'll put a large sawtooth wall hook on the back of it. But so I'm not going to worry with painting it, but I want to make sure that it's painted all around the edges, so that from when it's hanging on the wall, this is going to be something that will hang on the wall, and I'm going to put 3 coat hooks on it. So you could use it in the bathroom to hang towels on, or you could use it just to hang coats or something on. And I like how that looked. I almost put a stencil or something on it, but I just really like the primitive, simple look of just those black wall hooks on there. And that's the last item that I'll be doing. And I'm sorry this was on the shorter side, but that's just all I had time to do today. And I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope to see you in the next. Thank you so much for watching. Have a great evening, and God bless you and your family.